You made it just in time. We're about to lift anchor. Destination? Ancient Greece, to see the unbridled wrath of a woman scorned. And not any ordinary woman, but one whose lineage comes directly from the gods. This woman is Medea. According to writers of mythology, Medea makes her first appearance on the literary scene in Homer's Odyssey, which was written around 750 to 650 BC, and I happen to have it here in my playlist. She's mentioned also in Hesiod's Theogony, which was written around 730 to 700 BC. Hesiod describes Medea as the daughter of Hades, king of Colchis, and the granddaughter of Helios. He also tells us of Medea's marriage to Jason as one between a mortal and a god, suggesting that he considers her to be a goddess. Keep in mind that before the written word, Greek mythology was being shared and passed down orally by orators and bards since as far back as 3000 BC. Coming back to our timeline and yet a bit further back comes along Euripides' Medea, which was written around 431 BC. These were written originally in Greek. We cross over the life of Jesus and into Anno Domini AD, fast forward to around 50 AD, and we run into Seneca''s Medea, which was written in Latin, and the version that I'm sharing here is translated by Frank Justice Miller. That's the Medea we're going to visit. Hello, I am Daisy, your hostess. Welcome. If you'd like to jump to the reading of this tragic play, please visit my description for the jump link, where I have left also links from my research for this introduction. And keep in mind, I'm neither a scholar nor historian, just someone who loves to time travel and glean little secrets of hidden truths that lay for the picking in myths, poetries, history, ancient religious texts, lores, and more. But those secrets are only available for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Before I share my observations, we make a stop to Cordoba, Spain, the birthplace of Seneca, the author. He was born as Lucius Annus Seneca around 4 BC. His father was known as Seneca the Elder, and he was a member of the Roman nobility whose family had immigrated to Spain. Seneca the Younger, the one we're referring to, was a philosopher, statesman, dramatist, and he navigated the political landscape of ancient Rome to become one of the most influential figures of his time. He was a testament to the Stoic philosophy he espoused, and in his early 20s, he was sent to Egypt due to his health, where he lived with his aunt, and during that time he was exposed to different cultures and ideas, further broadening his intellectual horizons. He then returned to Rome, where he embarked in his political career, serving in the Roman Senate. He was appointed as Nero's tutor and later his advisor. Seneca found himself in a position of significant influence. So parallel to his political career, he continued to engage with his philosophy, producing a significant body of work that would cement his place as one of the leading Stoic philosophers. Apparently, he got involved in a conspiracy that caused him his life, pretty much. They accused him of plotting against Nero, and Nero had no love lost and used it as a pretext to order Seneca's death. Seneca chose to end his own life. His teachings continue to resonate with modern readers, offering timeless wisdom on how to live a virtuous and fulfilling life. There are so many interesting tidbits. We learned that Nero had an extensive library from a quote of Seneca from a lost book by Livy, and the resource to that is found in Personae, page 112, verse 6. And it said there, if 40,000 books were burned at Alexandria, they had been collected merely for ostentatious display. It is this passing remark, according to historians, that the first indication that the books, Libris, actually had been destroyed in the Caesarean fire a century before. Seneca does not say where these books were lost, but the context implies that they were in Nero's library, of which Seneca had access to. Before we get into Seneca's Medea, who is Medea? Well, according to Greek mythology, Medea's lineage includes the sun god Helios and the Oceanids Idia and Perses. King Aeetes of Colchis was Medea's father, who was the son of Helios and Perses, and Idia, Medea's mother, was an Oceanid and the daughter of Oceanus and Tethys. Helios himself is the son of Hyperion and Thea. Along with other siblings, they are children of Gaia, Earth, and Uranus, Sky. As I mentioned earlier, the Greek playwright Euripides first wrote about Jason betraying Medea to marry Creusa in his 5th century BC tragedy titled Medea. And Jason decides to leave Medea after 10 years of marriage to go off and marry Creusa, the daughter of King Creon of Corinth. Jason claims that his marriage to Medea is illegitimate because she is a foreigner. King Creon then exiles Medea from Corinth. Seneca adopted Medea into a tragedy in 50 AD, Anno Domini, and he wrote it in Latin. Medea is known in most stories as a sorceress and is often depicted as a priestess of the goddess Hecate, who is known to be the goddess of magic, of ghosts, of the night, and the protection from evil spirits. Now, for the case of love, crimes were committed. Medea is forever painted as wicked by Jason. To get a better picture of this, you may want to visit our book playlist and look for Argonautica. It'll begin to tie things together for you. Seneca undoubtedly proved his wits with Greek mythology and the Greek lay of the land and the landscapes, just very beautifully written. He laced one story upon another, revealing tidbits of mythological creatures, the gods, their personalities and adventures. And truly, I have to say, this Medea was fascinating. But most important, he gives us a front seat to a highly secret ritual ceremony, of which details would be hard to put on film. Yet all gore aside, we begin to see through Medea the rudimentary foundations of religious rituals from centuries of stories told before Christianity, before Jesus. Such components of altars, of gods, offerings, sacrifices, and incantations. Much more, of course. It is in the ritual that one can get a glimpse of the vast knowledge about celestial bodies, as she summons Ophiuchus, the large constellation in the northern sky that's shaped like a man holding a snake. And her knowledge of herbs, when to gather them, how to gather them, where to gather them, also what their properties were, hot or cold, something that is known in natural or Asian medicine today. She had knowledge with regards to snake venom and other concoctions to create poisons that, according to Seneca, were highly sought after in the use of warfare by the rich Arabians who smear their arrows, as well as the Medes and Parthians. She was a very sought-after person. Medea was no ordinary woman, even though Creon describes her as a contriver of wickedness who combines woman's wantons, recklessness, and man's strength. She was a priestess whose bloodline placed her as granddaughter to Helios, not far removed from Gaia and Uranus themselves. The grace of the gods and their wisdom was at her command. And according to mythology, the Medes were named after Medea, because after fleeing from Athens, she settled in the region of Asia, later called Medea, becoming beloved by the people of the region as she shared her wisdom with them. Today, the Medes are considered to be ancestors of many Iranians, and many historians believe the Kurds are considered descendants of the Medes as well. There's some commotion up ahead. I see they're asking for our boarding pass. If you are ready for some Greek tragedy, Seneca's Medea won't disappoint. Come. Seneca's Medea, translated from Latin by Frank Justice Miller. A brief introduction. Seneca the Younger was a Latin playwright and philosopher who flourished in Rome in the late century 1st AD during the reigns of Emperors Claudius and Nero. And a brief intro. Dramatis Personae. The characters are Medea, daughter of Aeetes, king of Colchis and wife of Jason; Jason, son of Aeson and nephew of Peleus, the usurping king of Thessaly, organizer and leader of the Argonautic expedition to Colchis in quest of the Golden Fleece; Creon, king of Corinth, who had received into his hospitable kingdom Medea and Jason, fugitives from Thessaly after Medea had plotted the death of Peleus; nurse of Medea; messenger, two sons of Medea and Jason; chorus of Corinthians, friendly to Jason and hostile to Medea. The time of the play is confined to the single day of the culmination of the tragedy, the day proposed by Creon for the banishment of Medea and the marriage of Jason to Creusa, daughter of Creon. The scene is in Corinth, in the court of the house of Jason. Argument. Although the play is confined in time to the final day of catastrophe at Corinth, the background is the whole romantic story of the Argonauts, how Jason and his hero comrades, at the instigation of Peleus, the usurping king of Thessalian Iolcos, undertook the first voyage in quest of the Golden Fleece. How, after many adventures, these first sailors reached the kingdom of Aeetes, who jealously guarded the fleece, since upon its possession depended his kingship. How the 3 deadly labors were imposed upon Jason before the fleece could be won, the yoking of the fiery bulls, the contest with the giants that sprang from the sown serpent's teeth, and the overcoming of the sleepless dragon that ever guarded the fleece. How, smitten by love of him, the beautiful barbaric Medea, daughter of the king, by the help of her magic aided Jason in all these labors, and accompanied him in his flight. How, to retard her father's pursuit, she slew her brother and scattered his mangled remains in the path as they fled. How again, for love of Jason, she restored his father to youth and tricked Peleus' own daughters into slaying their aged sire. How, for this act, Medea with her husband were exiled from Thessalia and dwelt in Corinth. How for 10 happy years she lived with her husband and 2 sons in this alien land, her wild past almost forgotten, her magic untouched. But now Jason has been won away from his wife and is about to wed Creusa, the daughter of Creon, king of Corinth. The wedding festivities have already begun when the play opens and reveals Medea invoking all the powers of heaven and hell in punishment of her false lord. Medea. Ye gods of wedlock, and thou, Lucina, guardian of the nuptial couch, and thou, who didst teach Typhus to guide his new bark to the conquest of the seas, and thou, grim ruler of the deeps of ocean, and Titan, who dost portion out bright day unto the world, and thou who doest show thy bright face as witness of the silent mysteries, O three-formed Hecate, and ye gods by whose divinity Jason swore to me, to whom Medea may more lawfully appeal. Thou chaos of endless night, ye realms remote from heaven, ye unhallowed ghost, thou lord of the realm of gloom, and thou his queen, won by violence, but with better faith. With ill-omened speech I make my prayer to you. Be present, ye goddesses who avenge crime, your hair foul with writhing snakes, grasping the smoking torch with your bloody hands. Be present now, such as once ye stood in dread array beside my marriage couch. Upon this new wife destruction bring, destruction on this father-in-law and the whole royal stock. I have yet curse more dire to call down on my husband. May he live. Through unknown cities may he wander, in want, in exile, in fear of life, hated and homeless. May he seek hospitality at strange doors, by now a familiar applicant. May he desire me for wife, and that which I can pray nothing worse. May his children be like their sire and like their mother. Already born is my vengeance. I have borne children, but why frame complaints and idle words? Shall I not go against my enemies? I'll snatch the bridal torches from their hands and the light from heaven. Does he behold this, the sun, father of my race? And do men still behold him as, sitting in his chariot, he courses over bright heaven's accustomed spaces? Why does he not return to his rising and measure back the day? Grant, oh grant that I ride through the air in my father's car. Give me the reins, O sire, give me the right to guide thy fire-bearing steeds with the flaming reins. Then let Corinth, with her twin shores cause of delay to ships, be consumed by flames and bring the two seas together. This course alone remains, that I myself bear the wedding torch unto the chamber and, after sacrificial prayers, slay victims on consecrated altars. Amid the very entrails seek thou a way for punishment, if thou livest, O soul, if there remains to thee aught of thy old-time strength. Away with womanish fears, clothe thy heart with unfeeling caucasus. Whatever horror Pontus has beheld, or faces Isthmus shall behold. Wild deeds unheard of, horrible, calamities at which heaven and earth alike shall tremble. My heart deep within is planning, wounds, slaughter, death, creeping from limb to limb. Ah, too trivial the deeds I have rehearsed. These things I did in girlhood. Let my grief rise to more deadly strength. Greater crimes become me, now that I am a mother. Gird thyself with wrath, and prepare thee for deadly deeds. With the full force of madness, let the story of thy rejection match the story of thy marriage. How wilt thou leave thy husband? Even as thou didst follow him. Break off now, dull delay, the home which by crime was gained. By crime must be abandoned. Chorus, chanting the Epithalamion for Jason and Creusa. May the high gods who rule over heaven, and thy who rule the sea with gracious divinity, attend on our prince's marriage, amid the people's solemn applause. First to the scepter-bearing thunderers, let the bull with white shining hide offer his high-raised neck. Lucina, let a heifer appease, snow-white untouched by the yoke. And let her, who restrains the bloody hands of rough Mars, who brings peace to warring nations and holds plenty in her rich horn, mild goddess, be given a tender victim. And do thou, who the torches of lawful marriage attendest, dissipating the night with propitious hand, hither come, reeling with drunken footstep, binding thy temples with garlands of roses. And thou star, forerunner of twilight, who returnest ever slowly for lovers, thee, mothers, thee, brides eagerly await, to see the full soon thy bright beams scattering. Our maiden in beauty far excels the Cecropian brides, and those who on Taygetus ridges are trained after the manner of mien by the unwalled city, and those who bathe in Aeonia's waters and Alpheus' sacred stream. Should he wish to be judged in beauty, all will yield to the son of Aeson, our leader, the ruthless lightning son, who yokes with wild tigers, and he who makes tremble the tripod, the stern virgin's brother, with his twin caster, Pollux with yield, more skilful in boxing. So, ye heaven dwellers, I pray you, let this bride surpass brides, this husband far excel husbands. When she has taken her stand midst her train of maidens, her one beauty shines more brightly than all. So does starlight splendor wane with the coming of the sun, and the huddled flock of the Pleiades vanish away when Phoebe, shining with borrowed light, with encircling horns encloses her full orbed disk. While on such beauty the young lover gazes, her cheeks are suddenly covered with rosy blushes. So snowy wool, dipped in purple dye, doth redden. So shines the sun when the shepherd at dawn, wet with the dew, beholds it. Do thou, O bridegroom, rescued from the marriage bonds of barbarous faces, wont with fear and reluctant hand to caress an unruly wife, joyfully take to thy arms the Aeolian maid, now at last 'tis with the parents' will? Sport, youths, with free banter and jesting, let your songs ring out. O youths, in responsive cadence, rarely against our lords is unrebuked license given. Comedy, noble scion of Laius, the Tharsis bearer, now is the time to light thy torch of frayed pine wood. Toss on high the ritual fire with languishing fingers. Let saucy sharp wit pour forth festive banterings, and let the throng be free with jesting. Let her pass in silent gloom, who steals away to wed with a foreign husband. Medea. We are undone. Upon my ears has sounded the marriage hymn. So great a calamity scarce I myself, scarce even yet can comprehend. Had Jason the heart to do this, having robbed me of my father, native land, and kingdom? Could he leave me alone in a foreign land, cruel? Has he scorned my deservings, who so flames and see conquered by my crime? Does he think that all my powers of evil are so exhausted? Perplexed, witless, with mind scarce sane, I am tossed to every side. Whence can I get vengeance? I would that he had a brother. A wife he has. Into her heart let the swords be driven. Is this enough to offset my woes? All monstrous deeds which Pelasgian, which barbaric cities know, all that thy own hands do not know, must be made ready now. Let thine own crimes urge thee on, and let them all return in memory, the bright ornament of the kingdom stolen away, and the wicked girl's little romance hewn in pieces with the sword, his murder forced upon his father's sight, his body scattered over the deep, and the limbs of aged Peleus seethed in a brazen pot. Murder and impious bloodshed now often have I wrought, and yet no crime have I done in wrath. 'Twas ill-omened love stirred me. But what else could Jason have done? Once made subject to another's wills and power, he should have bared his breast unto the sword. Nay, nay, mad grief, say not so. If possible, may he live and, mindful of me, keep unharmed the gift I gave. The fault is Creon's, all, who with unbridled sway dissolves marriages, tears mothers from their children, and breaks pledges bound by straitest oath. On him be my attack. Let him alone pay the penalties which he owes. I will pile his home high with ashes, its dark pinnacles wrapped in flames. Medea shall see, where, jutting out, it holds ships in tedious delay. Nurse, be silent, I pray thee, and confide to secret grief thy hidden plaints. Whoever has dumbly borne hard blows with patient and calm soul has been able to repay them. It is hidden wrath that harms. Hatred proclaimed loses its chance for vengeance. Medea. Light is the grief which can take counsel and hide itself. Great ills lie not in hiding. 'Tis pleasing to face the foe. Nurse. Stay this frenzied outburst, my child. Even silent calm can scarce defend thee. Medea. Fortune fears the brave, the cowardly overwhelms. Nurse. If there's a place for courage, then should it be approved. Medea. It can never be that for courage. There is no place. Nurse. No hope points out a way for our broken fortunes. Medea. Whoso has naught to hope, let him despair of naught. Nurse. The Colchians are no longer on thy side. Thy husband's vows have failed, and there is nothing left of all thy wealth. Medea. Medea is left. In her thou beholdest sea and land, and sword and fire, and gods and thunderbolts. Nurse. The king is to be feared. Medea. My father was a king. Nurse. Fearest thou not arms? Medea. Not though they were sprung from earth. Nurse. Thou wilt die. Medea. I wish it. Nurse. Flee. Medea. Of flight I have repented. Nurse. Medea. Medea. Will I be? Nurse. Thou art a mother. Medea. By whom thou seest. Nurse. Dost delay flight? Medea. Flee I shall, but I'll take my vengeance first. Nurse. The avenger will pursue. Medea. Perchance I shall find means to stay him. Nurse. Check thy words, spare now thy threats, foolish one, and thy proud spirit humble. 'Tis well to fit thee to the times. Medea. Fortune can take away my wealth, but not my spirit. But under whose blows does the king's door upon its hinges creak? It is Creon himself, puffed with Pelasgian power. Medea has retired to the back of the stage. Exit Nurse. Enter Creon. Creon. Medea, Colchian Hades' baleful child, has she not yet taken herself from my realm? She is plotting mischief. I know her guile. I know her power. Whom will she spare? Whom will she let live in peace? I was making ready to rid me of this outrageous pest by the sword's means, and with all speed. But the prayers of my daughter's husband have prevailed. I have granted her life. Let her free my boundaries from fear, and depart in safety. He sees Medea approaching. Boldly she moves to meet me, and with threatening mien seeks closer speech. Keep her off, ye slaves, from touch and approach far off. Bid her keep silence. Let her learn at last to obey a king's commands. To Medea. Hence, in swift flight, remove at once thine abominable presence, dire horrible. Medea. What crime, what fault is punishment by my exile? Creon. What cause expels her, that may an innocent woman ask? Medea. If thou art my judge, then hear me. If my king, command. Creon. A king's command, just and unjust, thou must obey. Medea. Unjust rule never abides continually. Creon. Go complain to the Colchians. Medea. I go, but let him take me who brought me thence. Creon. Thy prayer comes too late. My resolve is fixed. Medea. Didst thou hear Peleus ere he suffered punishment? But say on, be a hearing granted to thine excellent case. How hard it is to turn away from wrath the spirit when once aroused, and how royal it seems to him who has grasped the scepter in his proud hands to go on as he has begun. I have learned in my own royal home. For although I am overwhelmed by piteous disaster, an exile, suppliant, lonely, forsaken, on all sides buffeted, once I had glory from my noble father, and from my grandsire, the sun, traced illustrious descent. All the land that faces waters with its calm, winding stream, all the Scythian Pontus sees behind it, where the sea grows sweet with marshy waters, and that the unwedded hordes, crescent-shielded, hemmed by Thermodon's banks, fill with alarm. Over all this my father rules. High-born, blessed of heaven, in royal power and splendor than I shone. Then princes sued for marriage with me, whom now I must sue. Swift and fickle is fortune, and, swooping down, hast torn me from royalty and given me over to exile. Put thy trust in royalty, although light chance hither and thither tosses even mighty wealth. This is the glorious great privilege of kings, which time can never snatch away, to succor the afflicted, on a safe hearth to shelter suppliants. This only have I brought from Colchian realm, that by my own self I saved that great glory and illustrious flower of Greece, bulwark of the Achaeans, offspring of gods. Orpheus is my gift, who softens the rocks by his singing and draws trees after him. Mine too are the twins Castor and Pollux, and the sons of Boreas, and Lynceus, who with far-flung gaze sees things removed even beyond Pontus, and all the minions. For of the leaders I say no word, for him naught is owing. I count none debtor for his sake. For you I brought back the rest, him only for myself. Come on now, and heap all kinds of shameful deeds upon me. I will confess them, but as for crimes, this only can be charged: the rescue of the Argo. Suppose modesty should please the maiden, suppose her filial duty should please her. Then will the whole Pelasgian land perish with its leaders, and this thy son-in-law will first fall before the fiery breath of the fierce bull. Let what fortune will oppress me. I repent not the glorious salvation of so many kings. Whatever reward I have won by all my crimes, it is in thy hands. Arraign and condemn me, if 'tis thy pleasure, but give me back my sin. I am guilty, I confess it. Creon. Such didst thou know me when I clasped thy knees, and as suppliant sought the loyalty of thy protecting hand. Once more, some corner, some abiding place for my woes, I beg, some paltry hiding place. If from thy city thou art pleased to drive me, let some remote nook in thy realm be given me. Creon. That I am not one to wield the scepter with violence, nor to trample upon misery with haughty foot. Methinks I have not unclearly shown by choosing for son-in-law an exile, crushed and stricken with heavy fear. One whom Augustus, lord of Thessaly, demands for punishment and death. He complains that his father, palsied and weak with age, burdened with years, was taken off, and the murdered old man's limbs torn asunder, when, deceived by the guile, his pious sisters dared an impious crime. Jason can defend his own cause, if it is separate from thine. No blood has stained his innocence. His hand wielded no sword, and he has kept far off and free from company of such as thou. Thou contriver of wickedness, who combinest woman's wanton recklessness and man's strength, with no thought of reputation. Away! Purge my kingdom, and take thy deadly herbs with thee. Free the citizens from fear, abiding in some other land. Harry the gods. Medea. Dost force me to flee? Give back then to the fugitive her ship. Yea, give back her comrade. Why dost thou bid me flee alone? I did not come alone. If 'tis war thou fearest, drive us both from thy kingdom. Why make distinction twixt two culprits? 'Tis for him Pelias lies dead, and not for me. At flight, theft, a deserted father, a mangled brother, any crime which even now the bridegroom is teaching his new wives, 'tis no crime of mine. Full oft have I been made guilty, but never for myself. Creon. Thy going is already overdue. Why dost contrive delay with words? Medea. Suppliant, I make this last prayer to thee as I depart. Let not the mother's guilt drag down her guiltless sons. Creon. Go then, these will I take as father to my fatherly embrace. Medea. By the blessed bed of this royal marriage, by thy hopes for the future, and by the estate of thrones, which fickle fortune disturbs with changeful lot, I pray thee be bountiful of a brief stay of my flight, while I, their mother, imprint on my sons the latest kiss, perchance my dying act. Creon. For treachery thou art seeking time. Medea. What treachery can be feared in time so scant? Creon. No time is too brief for harm to those on evil bent. Medea. Dost refuse a poor mother just a little time for tears? Creon. Though my ingrained fear bids me refuse thy plea, one day shall be given to prepare for banishment. Medea. 'Tis more than enough. Though thou retrench it somewhat, I also am in haste. Creon. With thy life shalt thou pay penalty, if before Phoebus brings the bright day thou art not gone from Isthmus. But the marriage rites summon me, summons the festal day to pray to Hymen. Exeunt. Chorus. Too venturesome the man who in frail bark first clept the treacherous seas and, with one last look behind him at the well-known shore, trusted his life to the fickle winds, who, ploughing the waters on an unknown course, could trust to a slender plank, stretching too slight a boundary between the ways of life and death. Unsullied the ages our fathers saw, with crime banished afar. Then every man inactive kept to his own shores, and lived to old age on ancestral fields, rich with but little, knowing no wealth save what his home soil had yielded. Not yet could any read the sky, and use the stars with which the heavens are spangled. Not yet could ships avoid the rainy Hyades. Not yet did the fires of the Lanian goat, nor the Attic wane, which slows all booties, follows and controls. Not yet did Boreas, not yet Zephyrus have names. Tiphys made bold to spread his canvas on the vastly deep, and to write new laws for the winds. Now to spread full-bellied sail, now to haul the forward sheet and catch cross breezes, now to set the yards in safety midway of the mast, now to bind them at the top. When the too eager sailor prays for winds, aloft the ruddy topsails flutter. The lands, well separated before by nature's laws, the Thessalian ship made one, bade the deep suffer blows, and the sequestered sea become a part of our human fear. Heavy the penalties which that bold bark paid, wrought through long terrors, when two mountains, barriers of the deep, from either side quick rushing, soared as with sound of thunder, and the sea, caught between, sprinkled their peaks and the clouds themselves. Bold Tiphys paled with fear, and let the helm slip wholly from his faltering hand. Orpheus was still, his lyre mute with amaze, and the Argo herself lost voice. What, when the deadly pest soothed the Ausonian sea with their tuneful songs? When, sounding back on his Pyrenean lyre, Thracian Orpheus well nigh forced the siren to follow, though wont to hold ships spellbound by her song? Of this voyage, what was the prize? The golden fleece and Medea, worse evil than the sea, worthy to be the first ship's merchandise. Now in our time the deep has seized resistance, and submits utterly to law. No famous Argo, framed by a Pallas hand, with princes to man its oars, is sought for. Any little craft now wanders at will upon the deep. All bounds have been removed. Cities have set their walls in new lands, and the world, now passable throughout, has left nothing where it once had place. The Indian drinks of the cold Ereses, the Persians quaff the Elbe and the Rhine. There will come an age, in the far-off years, when ocean shall unloose the bonds of things, when the whole broad earth shall be revealed, when Tethys shall disclose new worlds, and Thule not be the limit of the lands. Nurse sees Medea hurrying out of the house. Dear child, whither hurriest thou abroad? Stay, curb thy passion, check thy impetuous haste. Medea goes on without heeding. As a Maenad uncertainly directs her frenzied steps when now she raves at the oncoming of the god, on snowy Pindus top or on Nissa's ridges, so she runs now here, now there, with frantic rush, marks of distracted passion in her face. Her cheeks aflame, she pants with deep sobs for breath, shouts aloud, weeps flood of tears, beams with joy. She assumes the proof of every passion. Whither the weight of her wrath inclines, where it aims its threats, hangs still in doubt. She threatens, seethes with rage, complains, groans aloud. Where will this wave break itself? Madness overflows its bounds. No simple or halfway crime doth she ponder in her heart. She will outdo herself. I recognize the marks of her old-time rage. Something great is impending, wild, monstrous, impious. Medea now approached. I see madness in her face. May heaven avert my fears. Medea, aside. If thou seekest, poor soul, what limit thou shouldst set to hate, copy thy love. Can it be that unavenged I should endure this royal wedding? Shall this day go idly by, so anxiously besought, so anxiously bestowed? While the central earth shall bear up the balanced heavens, while the bright universe shall pursue its unchanging rounds, while sands lack number, while day attends the sun and stars the night, while the dry bears revolve about the pole, and rivers fall to the sea, my madness shall never cease its quest of vengeance, and shall grow on forever. What ferocity of beast, what Scylla, what Charybdis, sucking up the Ausonian and Sicilian waters, or what Aetna, resting heavily on panting Titan, shall burn with such threats as I? No whirling river, no storm-tossed sea, no Pontus, raging beneath the northwest wind, no violence of fire, fanned by the gale, could imitate the onrush of my wrath. I shall lay prostrate and destroy all things. Did he fear Creon and the threats of Thessaly's king? True love can fear no man. But grant that under compulsion he yielded and made surrender. He could at least have come to me, could have spoken some last words to his wife. This also, though bold of heart, he feared to do. Surely 'twas in the power of the king's son-in-law to put off the time of my cruel banishment. One day was given for my children twain. But I complain not that the time is short. It shall stretch far. This day shall do that whereof no day shall ever be dumb. I will storm the gods and shake the universe. Nurse. Win back thy woe-troubled heart, my mistress, calm thy soul. Medea. The only calm for me, if with me I see the universe overwhelmed in ruins. With me let all things pass away. 'Tis sweet to drag others down when thou art perishing. Exit. Nurse, calling after Medea. Beware how many perils are to be feared if thou persist. No one may safely assail the strong. Enter Jason. Jason. O fate, ever hard, and fortune cruel, when she rages and when she spares, equally malign. How often does God find cures for us worse than our perils? Should I resolve to be faithful to my wife according to her deserts, my life would be forfeited to death. Should I refuse to die, alas, I must be faithless. It is not fear, but fearful father love that has conquered faith. Surely my children would share their parents' death. O holy justice, if in heaven thou dwellest, I call thy divinity to witness. The sons have prevailed upon the sire. Nay, even she herself, though she is fierce of heart and ill brooks the yoke, would rather, methinks, take thought for her sons than for her marriage rites. My mind is fixed to assail her wrath with prayers. Enter Medea. And see, at sight of me she stars up, bursts into a passion, displays her hate. All her anguish is in her face. Medea. We are fleeing, Jason, fleeing. 'Tis no new thing to change our abode, but the cause of flight is new. 'Twas for thee I was wont to flee. I withdraw, I go away, whom thou art forcing to flee forth from thy home. But whither dost thou send me back? Shall I seek Phasis and the Colchians, my father's kingdom, the fields drenched with my brother's blood? What lands dost thou bid me seek? What waters dost show to me? The jaws of the Pontic sea, through which I brought back the noble band of princess, following thee, thou wanton, through the clashing rocks? Is it little Iolcos or Thessalian temple I shall seek? All the ways which I have opened for thee, I have closed upon myself. Whither dost send me back? Thou imposest exile on an exile, but givest no place. But let me go. A king's son-in-law has commanded it. I'll not refuse. Heap dire penalties upon me, them have I deserved. Let the angry king crush thy mistress with cruel punishments, load her hands with chains, shut her up and bury her in dungeons of eternal darkness. I shall suffer less than I deserve. O ungrateful man, let thy heart recall the bull's fiery breath, and, midst the savage terrors of unconquered race, the fire-breathing herd on Aedes' arm-bearing plain, the weapons of the suddenly appearing foe, when, at my order, the earth-born soldiery fell in mutual slaughter. Think, too, on the long-sought spoil of the ram of Phrixus, the sleepless dragon, bidden to close his eyes in unknown slumber. My brother given up to death, crime not done once alone in one act of crime. Think on the daughters who, lured by my guile, dare dismember the old man who was never to return to life. By the hopes of thy children, thine established house, by the monsters conquered, by these hands which I have never spared in thy service, by the perils we have undergone, by heaven and sea, witnesses of my marriage, have mercy on me. Happy thyself, give thy suppliant her turn at happiness. Seeking a kingdom for another, I have given up my own. Of all that wealth which, plundered even from the distant swart tribes of India, the Scythians heap up, the golden treasure which, since the packed palace can scarce contain it, we hang upon the trees. I brought away nothing in my exile save only my brother's limbs. Those also I squandered upon thee. For thou my country has given place, for thee father, brother, maidenhood. With this dower did I wed thee. Give back to the fugitive her own. Jason. When angry Creon was bent on thy destruction, 'twas by my tears he was prevailed upon to grant thee banishment. Medea. A banishment I deemed it. Now, as I see, exile is a boon. Jason. Depart while still thou mayest. Take thyself hence. Grievous ever is the wrath of kings. Medea. In urging this upon me, thou art Creusa's advocate. Thou wouldst remove the rival whom she hates. Jason. What? Medea charged me with love? Medea. Yes, murder, too, and treachery. Jason. What crime, pray, canst thou charge to me? Medea. Whatever I have done. Jason. This one thing remains still for me, to become guilty of thy sins as well. Medea. They are thine own. Who profits by a sin has done the sin. Though all should wholly thy wife infamous, do thou alone protect her, do thou alone call her innocent. Let her be guiltless in thy sight, who for thy sake is guilty. Jason. Unwelcome is life which one is ashamed to have accepted. Medea. Then one should not keep a life which he is ashamed to have accepted. Jason. Nay, calm thy wrath-stirred heart, for thy son's sake be reconciled. Medea. I reject, forswear, disown them. Shall Creusa bear brothers to my children? Jason. Yes, a queen to the sons of exiles, a royal lady to the fallen. Medea. Never may such ill day come to the wretched, as shall mingle a base breed with illustrious stock, Phoebus' sons with the sons of Sisyphus. Jason. Why, wretched woman, dost thou drag both me and thee to ruin? Be gone, I pray thee. Medea. Creon has heard my prayer. Jason. What can I do? Tell me. Medea. For me? Crime. Jason. A king on this side and on that. Medea. There is, and this more fearsome still. Medea. Let us strive together, and let the prize be Jason. Jason. I yield, worn with trouble, and do thou self beware lest thou tempt fate too often. Medea. Always has every fortune stood beneath my feet. Jason. Augustus is hard after us. Medea. Nearer foe is Creon. Flee them both, that thou arm thy hand against thy father-in-law, and stain thyself with kindred blood. Medea does not compel thee. Remain guiltless and escape with me. Jason. And who will resist if double war assail us, if Creon and Augustus unite their arms? Medea. Add the Colchians to these, add Aeetes too, to lead them, join Scythians with Pelasgians, to destruction will I give them all. Jason. I tremble at lofty scepters. Medea. See that thou lust not after them. Jason. Cut short this long discourse, lest it arouse suspicion. Medea. Now, O most high Jupiter, thunder throughout thy heavens, stretch forth thy hand, thine avenging flames prepare. Rend the clouds and make the whole world quake. Let thy bolts be poised with hand that chooseth neither me nor him. Whichever of us falls will perish guilty. Against us thy bolt can make no error. Jason. Begin to think with reason and speak with calm. If any solace from my father-in-law's house can soothe thy fight, request it. Medea. To scorn the wealth of kings, my soul, as well thou knowest, hath strength and want. I ask but this, that I may have my children as comrades of my flight, that in their bosoms I may pour forth my tears. The new sons await. Jason. I confess that right gladly would I yield unto thy prayer, but a father's love forbids. For that I should permit this thing, not Creon himself, my king and father-in-law, could force me. This is my reason for living, this my heart's comfort, consumed as it is with cares. Sooner could I part with breath, with limbs, with light. Medea, aside. Thus does he love his sons? 'Tis well, I have him. The place to wound him is laid bare. To Jason. As I depart, my final message, at least grant me to speak. Grant me to give the last embrace. Even that will be a boon. With my latest utterance I beg thee now, let not any words my distracted grief has poured forth remain within my mind. Let the memory of my better self stay with thee, and let these words spoken in wrath be quite forgot. Jason. All have I driven from my mind, and also make prayer to thee that thou curb thy hot passion and be calm. Peace soothes the soul's distresses. Exit. Medea. He has gone. Can it be so? Goest thou, forgetful of me and of all the deeds I wrought? Have we fallen from thy memory? Nay, we shall never fall therefrom. To herself. To thy task, summon up all thy powers and arts. The fruit of thy crimes is to count nothing crime. There is scant room for fraud, we are held in fear. There make attack where no one can fear aught. Haste thee now, dare, begin whatever Medea can, and cannot, do. To the nurse. Do thou, faithful nurse, comrade of my grief and of my shifting fortunes, help my unhappy plannings. I have a robe, a gift from heaven, the glory of our house and kingdom, given by the son to Aeetes as a pledge of fatherhood. There's also a gleaming necklace of woven gold, and a golden band which the sparkle of gem adorns, with which the air is encircled. Let my sons bring these as gifts unto the bride, but let them first be anointed and imbued with baneful poisons. Now call on Hecate. Prepare the death-dealing rites. Let altars be erected, and let now their fires resound within the palace. Chorus. No violence of fire or of swelling gale, no fearful force of hurtling spear, is as great as when a wife, robbed of her love, burns hot with hate. Not when cloudy Auster has brought the winter's rains, and Hister's flood speeds on, wrecking bridges in its course, and wanders afield. Not when the Rhone beats back the sea, or when the snows melt into streams beneath the sun's strong rays, and in mid-spring Hemis has dissolved. Blind is the fire of love when fanned by rage, cares not to be controlled, brooks no restraint, has no fear of death. 'Tis eager to advance against the sword. Have mercy, O gods, be gracious, we beseech you, that he may live in safety who tamed the sea. But the Lord of the deep is enraged that the second realm is conquered. The youth who dared drive the everlasting chariot, heedless of his father's goal, himself caught the fire which in his madness he scattered over the sky. The familiar path has cost no mortal dear. Walk thou where 'twas safer folk aforetime, nor break, rash man, the inviolable covenants of the universe. Whoever handled that daring ship's famous oars and despoiled Pelion of his sacred grove's thick shade, whoever entered between the roaming rocks and, having passed the perils of the deep, moored his vessel on a savage shore, to return captor of foreign gold, all by a dreadful and atoned for the sea's outraged laws. Punishment the challenged ocean claims. First of all, Tiphys, the tamer of the deep, gave up control to an untrained helmsman, dying on a foreign shore, far from his ancestral realm. In a paltry tomb he lies midst unfamiliar shades. For this, Aulis, remembering her lost king, in her becalmed harbor holds ships chafing at delay. That son of the tuneful muse, at whose sweet melodies the swift stream stood still and the winds were hushed, when the bird, leaving off its own singing, came near him, the whole wood following after. He lay scattered over the Thracian fields, but his head floated down mournful Hebrus. He came to the familiar Styx and Tartarus, never to return. Alcides lay low the sons of Achillo. He slew Neptune's son, wont to take upon his countless shapes. But he himself, after establishing peace on the land and sea, after opening up the kingdoms of savage Dis, laid him down, living, on burning Oida, and gave his body to the devouring flames, consumed by the wasting of the double blood, his wife's offering. The bristling boar, irresistible in his thrust, laid Aeneas low. Though Meleager dost impiously slay thy mother's brother, and diest by thine enraged mother's hand. All these deserve the charge for which that tender boy, sought vainly by mighty Hercules, atoned by death. The boy snatched away, alas, midst peaceful waters. Go now, ye brave, plough the sea, whose streams ye ought to dread. Idmon, though he well knew his fate, was slain by a serpent on Libya's sands. true to all, but false to himself alone, Mopsus fell and saw not Thebes again. If he told truth as to the future, that his husband shall in exile wander. Nauplius, while striving to wreck the Argives by false beacon fires, shall fall headlong into the deep. His son shall perish and pay the penalty of his father's sin. Oileus, too, dying midst flame and flood, redeeming from death her lord, of Phery, the wife, shall perish, giving up her life for her husband's sake. Peleus himself, who bade the prize of the golden spoil be brought away in the first ship, seething in boiling pot, wandering midst waters close confined, perished by fire. Enough now, ye gods! Have ye avenged the sea? Spare him who was ordered to the task. Nurse, alone. My spirit quakes with horror. Some great disaster is at hand. Monstrously grows her grief, feeds its own fires and renews its former strength. Often I have seen her in frenzy and assailing the gods, drawing down the sky. But greater than such deeds, greater is the monstrous thing Medea is preparing. For now that with maddened steps she has gone out and come to her baleful shrine, she lavishes all her stores and brings forth whatever even she herself long has dreaded, and marshals her whole train of evil powers, things occult, mysterious, hidden. And supplicating the grim altar with her left hand, she summons destructive agencies. Whatever burning Libya's sands produce, what Taurus, stiff with arctic cold, holds fast in his everlasting snows, and all monstrous things. Drawn by her magic incantations, the scaly brood leave their lairs and come to her. Here a savage serpent drags its huge length long, darts out its forked tongue, and seeks against whom it is to come death-dealing. Hearing her incantation, it stops in amaze, knots its swollen body into writhing folds, and settles them into coils. Petty are the evils, she cries, and cheap is the weapon which deepest earth begets. From heaven will I seek my poisons. Now is the time to set in motion some plan deeper than common guile. Hither let that serpent descend which lies like a vast rushing stream, whose huge folds the two beasts feel, the greater and the lesser, the greater used by Pelasgians, by Sidonians the less. Let Ophiuchus at length relax his choking grip and give the poison vent. In answer to my incantations let Python come, who dared to attack the twin divinities. Let Hydra return, and every serpent cut off by the hand of Hercules, restoring itself by its own destruction. Thou, too, ever watchful dragon, quitting the Colchians, come thou to my aid, thou who through my incantations was first lulled to slumber. When she had summoned forth the whole tribe of serpents, she assembled her evil store of baleful herbs, whatever trackless Eryx produces on his rocky slopes, plants that grow on heights clothed in unbroken winter, the heights of Caucasus spattered with Prometheus' gore, plants wherewith the rich Arabians smear their arrows, and the bold Mede girt with his quiver, or the light-armed Parthians, or those juices which, under the bold pole, high-born Sueban women gather in Hyrcanian groves, whatever the earth produces in the nest-building springtime of when frozen winter was stripped the woods of their glory and bound all things with icy fetters. All plants that bloom with deadly flower, and all whose juices breed case of death in their twisted roots, all these she handles. Haemonian Athos contributed those baneful herbs, these mighty Pindus. On the ridges of Pangaeus, that plant was lopped off its tender foliage with a bloody sickle. These Tigris fed, checking his deep flood the while. The Danube, these gem-studded Hydaspes, flowing with warm waters through thirsty tracts, and the Baides, which gave its name to its own country, pushing into the western sea with languorous flood. These plants felt the knife while Phoebe's was making ready the day. The shoot of that was clipped at midnight, while this was severed by fingernail with muttered charm. She seizes death-dealing herbs, squeezes out serpent's venom, and with these mingles unclean birds, the heart of a boding owl, and a hoarse screech owl's vitals cut out alive. Other objects the mistress of evil lays out, arranged in separate heaps. In some is the ravening power of fire, in others numbing frost's icy cold. She adds to her poisons words, no less fearsome than they. But listen, her frenzied step has sounded, and she chants her incantations. All nature shudders as she begins her song. Enter Medea, singing an incantation. Medea, I supplicate the throng of the silent, and you, funereal gods, murky chaos and shadowy dis, dark dwelling place, the abysses of dismal death, girt by the banks of Tartarus. Leaving your punishments, ye ghosts, haste to the new nuptials. Let the wheel stop that is whirling his body, and Ixion stand on earth. Let Tantalus in peace drink his fill of the perennial spring. You, too, whom a fruitless toil mocks with urns full of holes, ye Danaids, come hither. This day needs your hands. On one alone, my lord's new father, let a penalty rest heavier. Let the slippery stone roll Sisyphus backward over the rocks. Now, my summoned by my sacred rites, do thou, orb of the night, put on thy most evil face and come, threatening in all thy forms. For thee, losing my hair from its band after the manner of my people, with bare feet have I trod the secret groves and called forth rain from thy dry clouds. I have driven the seas back to their lowest depths, and the ocean, his tides outdone, has sent his crushing waves farther into the land, and in like manner, with heaven's law confounded, the world has seen both sun and stars together, and you, ye bears, have bathed in the forbidden sea. The order of the seasons have I changed. The summer land has blossomed neath my magic song, and by my compelling, Ceres has seen harvest in winter time. Phasis has turned his swift waters backward to their source, and Hyssler, divided into many mouths, has checked his boisterous streams and flowed sluggishly in all his beds. The waves have roared, the mad sea swelled, though the winds were still. The heart of the ancient woods has lost its shadows, when the bright day has come back to them at commandment of my voice. Phoebes has halted in mid-heaven, and the Hyades, moved by my incantations, totter to their fall. The hour is at hand, O Phoebe, for thy sacred rites. She offers various gifts to Hecate. To thee I offer these wreaths wrought with bloody hands, each entwined with 9 serpent coils. To thee, these serpent limbs which rebellious Typhoeus wore, who caused Jove's throne to tremble. In this is the blood which Nessus, that traitor ferryman, bestowed as he expired. With these ashes the Pyrrhon Oeta sank down, which drank in the poisoned blood of Hercules. Here thou seest the billet of pious sister, but impious mother, Althea, the avenger. These feathers the harpy left in their trackless lair when she fled from Zides, and to these the quills of the wounded Stymphalian bird, which felt the darts of Lerna. You have given forth your voice, ye altars. I see my tripods shaken by the favoring deity. I see Trivia's swift gliding car, not as when, radiant with full face, she drives the livelong night, but as when, ghastly, with mournful aspect, harried by Thessalian threats, she skirts with nearer rein the edge of heaven. So do thou wanly shed from thy torch a gloomy light through air. Terrify the peoples with new dread, and let precious Corinthian bronzes resound, Dictina, to thy aid. To thee on the altar's blood turf we perform thy solemn rites. To thee a torch caught up from the midst of a funeral pyre has illumined the night. To thee, tossing my head and with bended neck, I have uttered my magic words. For thee a fillet, lying in funeral fashion, binds my flowing locks. To thee with bared breast will I, as a Maenad, smite my arms with the sacrificial knife. Let my blood flow upon the altars. Accustom thyself, my hand, to draw the sword and endure the sight of beloved blood. She slashes her arm and lets the blood flow upon the altar. Self-smitten have I poured forth the sacred stream. But if thou complainest that too often thou art called on by my prayers, pardon, I pray, the cause, O Perseus' daughter, of my too oft calling on thy bows is one and the same ever, Jason. Do thou now, she takes a phial, poison Creusa's robe that, when she has donned it, the creeping flame may consume her inmost marrow. Within this tawny gold, she takes a casket, lurks fire, darkly hid. Prometheus gave it me, even he who expiates with ever-growing live his theft from heaven, and taught me by his art how to store up its powers. Mulciber hath also given me fires which subtly lurk in sulphur, and bolts of living flame I took from my kinsman, Pathon. I have gifts from Chimera's middle part. I have flames caught from bull's gorged throat, which, well mixed with Medusa's gall, I have bidden to guard their bane in silence. Give sting to my poisons, Hecate, and in my gifts keep hidden the seeds of fire. Let them cheat the sight, let them endure the touch. Let burning fire penetrate to heart and veins. Let her limbs melt and her bones consume in smoke, and with her blazing locks let the bride outshine her wedding torches. My prayers are heard. Thrice has bold Hecate bayed loud, and has raised the accursed fire with its baleful light. Now all my powers marshalled, hither call my sons, that by their hands thou mayest send these costly gifts unto the bride. Medea's sons are brought in. Go, go, my sons, born of an ill-starred mother, win to yourselves by means of gifts, and much beseeching your mistress and stepmother. Begone, and quickly come you home again, that I may enjoy one last embrace. Exeunt sons toward the palace. Medea is in the opposite direction. Chorus. Whither is this blood-stained Maenad borne headlong by mad passion? What crime with reckless fury is she preparing? Her distraught face is hard set in anger, and with fierce tossings of her head she hotly threatens even the king. Who would think her an exile? Her cheeks blaze red, pallor puts red to flight. No color in her changing aspect does she keep long. Hither and thither she wanders, as a tigress, robbed of her cubs, ranges in mad course through the jungles of Ganges. How to curb her anger Medea knows not, nor yet her love. Now that anger and love had joined cause, what will the outcome be? When will the wicked Colchian be gone from the Pelasgian borders and free from terror at once our kingdom and our kings? Now, O Phoebus, speed thy chariot with no check of rain. Let friendly darkness veil the light, and let Hesperus, guard of the night, plunge deep this fearful day. Enter messenger, running from the direction of the palace. Messenger. All is lost. The kingdom props have fallen. Daughter and father in commingled ashes lie. Chorus. By what snare taken? Messenger. By common snare of kings. By gifts. Chorus. What snare could have been in them? Messenger. Myself, I also marvel, and, though the woeful thing is done, can scarce believe it could be done. What stay is there to ruin? The greedy fire rages through the palace, every part as if 'twere bidden so. Already the whole house has fallen, the city is in peril. Chorus. Let water put out the flames. Messenger. Nay, in this disaster, this marvel, too, has happened. Water feeds the flames, and the more 'tis checked, the more fiercely burns the fire. The very defenses does it seize upon. Enter Medea in time to hear the last words. Nurse. To Medea. Quickly, begone, Medea, from the land of Pelops. Seek headlong any land thou wilt. Medea. What, I? Shall I give ground? Nay, had I fled already, for this I should return. Strange nuptials see I here. She becomes absorbed in her own thoughts. Why, soul, dost falter? Follow up the attack so well begun. How small a part of thy vengeance is that in which thou art rejoicing. Thou dost love him still, mad one, if 'tis enough for thee that Jason wifeless be. Seek thou some unaccustomed form of chastisement, and now thus prepare thyself. Let all right give way. Let honor be gone, defeated. Light is the rod which innocent hands uplift. Bend to thine anger. Rouse up thy halting purpose, and with all thy strength drain from thy heart's very depths its old-time violence. Let all that has yet been done be called but piety. To the task, let them know how petty, of what common stamp were the crimes I wrought to serve him. In them my grief was but practicing. What great deed had prentice hands the power to do? What, a girl's rage? Now I am Medea. My wit has grown through suffering. Glad am I, glad that I tore off my brother's head, glad that I carved his limbs, that I robbed my father of his guarded treasure, glad that I armed daughters for an old man's death. Seek thou fresh fields, my grief. No untrained hand wilt thou bring to any crime. Whither, then, wrath art tending? Or what weapons art thou aiming at the forsworn foe? A dark purpose my fierce spirit hath resolved within me, and dares not yet acknowledge to itself. Fool, fool, I have gone too fast. Would that mine enemy had children by his paramour. She pauses, and then addresses herself. All offspring that thou hast by him are Creusa's brood. Resolved is this way of vengeance, rightly resolved. For a last deed of guilt, I see it now, must my soul make ready. Children that once were mine, do you pay penalty for your father's crimes. Horror has smit my heart. My limbs are numb with cold, and my heart with terror flutters. Wrath has given place. The mother has all come back. The wife is banished. Can I shed my children's, my own offspring blood? Ah, mad rage, say not so. Far, even from me, be that unheard of deed, that accursed guilt. What sin will the poor boys atone? Their sin is that Jason is their father, and, greater sin, that Medea is their mother. She pauses. Let them die. They are none of mine. Let them be lost. They are my own. They are without crime and guilt. Yeah, they are innocent. I acknowledge it. So too was my brother. Why, soul does hesitate. Why are my cheeks wet with tears? Why do anger and love now hither, now thither, draw my changeful heart? A double tide tosses me, uncertain of my course, as when rushing winds wage mad warfare, and from both sides conflicting floods lash the seas and the fluctuating waters boil. Even so is my heart tossed. Anger puts love to flight, and love anger. O wrath, yield thee to love. Hither, dear children, sole comfort of my fallen house, come hither and link your entwining limbs with mine. Let your father have you unharmed, so but your mother may have you too. But exile and flight press hard upon me. Now will they be torn from my bosom and carried away from me, midst tears and sighs and kisses. Let them be lost to their father. They are lost to me. My grief grows again and my hate burns hot. Arinus, as of old, claims my unwilling hand. O wrath, where thou dost lead I follow. I would that from my womb the throng of proud Niobe had sprung, and that I had been the mother of twice 7 sons. Too barren have I been for vengeance. Yet for my brother and my father there is enough, for I have borne 2 sons. Whither haste that headlong horde of furies? Whom seek they? Against whom are they preparing their flaming blows? Whom does the hellish host threaten with its bloody brands? A huge snake hisses, whirled with writhing lash. Whom does Medea seek with her deadly torch? Whose shade comes there dimly seen, its limbs all scattered? It is my brother, and 'tis punishment he seeks. Will pay, yes, all the debt. Plunge your hands into my eyes, tear, burn, see my breast is open to the furies. O brother, bid the avenging goddesses depart from me, and go in peace to the deep-buried ghosts. To myself leave me, and use this hand, brother, which has drawn the sword. She slays the first son. With this victim, I appease thy ghost. What means that sudden noise? 'Tis arms they're making ready, and they seek me for my slaying. To the lofty roof of our palace will I mount, now the bloody work hath been begun. To her remaining son, do thou come with me. To her dead son, thy corpse also will I take hence with me. Now the task, O soul, not in secrecy must thy great deed be lost. To the people approve thy handiwork. Exit Medea, carrying the body of her dead son and leading the living. Enter Jason in the street below, shouting to the citizens. Jason. Ye faithful souls, who mourn your prince's doom, rally to me that we may take the author herself of this dread crime. Here, my brave band of warriors, bring weapons, raise this house to the very ground. Medea, appearing on the housetop. Now have I regained my regal state, my brother, my sire, and the Colchians have once more the spoil of the golden fleece. Restored is my kingdom, my ravished virginity is restored. O divinities, at last propitious, O festal day, O nuptial day! On, the crime is accomplished, but vengeance is not yet complete. Be done with it while thy hands are still about. Why hesitate, though thou canst do it? Now has my wrath died within me? I am sorry for my act, ashamed. What, wretched woman, have I done? Wretched, say I? Though I repent, yet have I done it. Great joy steals on me 'gainst my will, and lo, it is increasing. She catches sight of Jason in the crowd below. This one thing I lacked, that yon man should behold. Naught have I done as yet. Whatever crime I've done is lost unless he sees it. Jason, discovering her. See, there she is herself, leaning over the sheer battlement. Someone bring fire that she may fall consumed by her own flames. Medea. Nay, Jason, heap up for thy sons their last funeral pyre. Build them a tomb. Thy wife and father have already the services due the dead, buried by me. This son has met his doom, and this shall suffer like fate before thy eyes. Jason. By all the gods, by our flight together, by our marriage couch, to which I have not been faithless, spare the boy. If there is any guilt, 'tis mine. I give myself up to death. Destroy my guilty head. Medea. Here where thou dost forbid it, where it will grieve thee, will I plunge the sword. Go now, haughty man, take thee maids for wives, abandon mothers. Jason. One is enough for punishment. Medea. If this hand could be satisfied with the death of one, it would have sought no death at all. Though I slay two, still is the count too small to appease my grief. If in my womb there still lurk any pledge of thee, I search my very vitals with the sword and hale it forth. Jason. Now end what thou hast begun. I make no more entreaty, and at least spare my suffering this suspense. Medea. Enjoy a slow revenge. Hasten not my grief. Mine is the day. We are but using the allotted time. Jason. O heartless one, slay me. Medea. Thou biddest me pity. She slays the second son. 'Tis well, 'tis done. I had no more atonement to offer thee. O grief! Lift thy tear-swollen eyes hither, ungrateful Jason. Dost recognize thy wife? 'Tis thus I am wont to flee. A way through the air has opened for me. Two serpents offer their scaly necks bending to the yoke. Now, father, take back thy sons. She throws the bodies down to him. I through the air on my winged car shall ride. She mounts the car and is borne away. Jason, calling after her. Go on through the lofty spaces of high heaven and bear witness, where thou writest, that there are no gods. The end. Yes, we have finished the reading of Senecas' Medea, translated from Latin by Frank Justice Miller. Please do leave me a comment. Let me know you were here. What was your best part that you liked? And hit that like button. Share this with your friends. And subscribe to the channel so you will be notified of any other videos I put up. And until then, hopefully we'll connect again here in my channel at the next video, wherever that may be. Be blessed.